There's speculation that Path of Exile 2 is going to announce their 1.0 full release, meaning the game will no longer have a price tag around it, and they'll consider it a released live service product as opposed to an early access live service product. The reason there's speculation is because ExileCon is coming here in November 7th. Now, the last one was 2023 on July 29th, meaning this is going to be over 3 years since the last ExileCon. And typically, they don't really host ExileCons without some sort of big announcement or things around it. They're not just going to have a big meeting without a reason to actually have the ExileCon. So for that reason, we're seeing a large amount of speculation and guesses that the reason we're having ExileCon 2026 is because they are full releasing the game or announcing a timeline to do so. Now, we know from previous interviews and statements that they very adamantly made that there are certain things that for them, they absolutely require the game to have before they can consider it to be releasable. And we also know there are things that they will be willing to not have quite ready. So let's go through the list. Now, in a previous interview with Destin, this is the most recent interview that we have related to Path of Exile 2. They asked him a question about the release date for Path of Exile 2.
And you can't give me any hints about final release date.
Well, I mean, it isn't this year. That's what I can definitely say about that. Yeah. But look, put it this way. I would be incredibly disappointed if we didn't have it out sometime next year. Let's just say that. That's definitely like if the release year ended in a 7, I would be quite unhappy.
Obviously, what it means by it's not going to be this year is this interview was done in December of 2025, and obviously they were going to release it in the next week. So he doesn't want it to be 27. Obviously, it was not 25. That leaves 26. But he goes on to say exactly what will be required in order to be able to full release it here.
When it comes down to it, what we need to do is we need to get, the end game in a good place. We need to get the balance in a good place. We need to get the performance in a good place. It's just basically, and then of course we need to finish the campaign, right? Like these are the things we need to do.
Now, he says the balance and he says the performance. Now, arguably in 0.5, although it's not a unanimously well-received league, I myself have my own words on it, but arguably the balance is actually better than it was. Now, I'm not saying it's completed. I think there's still like blood mage shenanigans, cast on crit, like the bosses are getting melted too soon. And we can all agree that the balance is not done, obviously. But in terms of build variety, it's definitely better than it was in previous leagues where you would just see a bunch of Deadeye, etc. There's actually a pretty good amount of builds that can be played, and the balance of such builds is still into question. And for performance, this is off the back of 0.3, a really bad performance. Going to 0.4, they did a lot of performance-related fixes and focus. I would say the performance isn't too bad for me, at least right now, but I have a pretty strong computer, so they'll have to still do some tweaks around that, but at least it's better than it was in 0.3. Really, the big obvious elephants in the room here is Endgame and the campaign. Now, we know 0.5 is the focus point for Endgame. It was supposed to be 0.4. It didn't make it into 0.4, and instead we got sort of the league mechanics. So 0.5 is supposed to be the in-game rework. Now, 0.5 is going to be slated for April. We already know March is Path of Exile 1. They're doing 4-month releases. That means Path of Exile 2 is going to be sometime in April, and because Path of Exile 1 is releasing on March 6th, I'm assuming at least that, somewhere in mid-April. In that in-game update, we're going to need to see some quality of life. We need the search function for sure here on the Infinite Growing Atlas, navigation and player agency, like a way to actually be able to pick what kind of maps you're running, or a highly requested item for the in-game rework, some mid-game. They talked previously in a Talkative Try interview that there was a mid-game gulf of content and a little bit of lack of direction. So I expect in 0.5 to see some more quests. You know how they send you like, go to, the Arbiter and then go to the Citadel and go to the Nexus. They have those. I would expect some more of these, maybe more focused on like midpoint level bosses. Like in Path of Exile 1, you have, Exarch, Either, and these types of, Shaper, these types of bosses, which are like points for you to actually focus on before you go to more pinnacle challenges. And so I would expect some sort of mid-game focused level objectives, but also more importantly, in my opinion, we need some help here on the Atlas tree. They've talked before about the Atlas tree not being done and that there are new Atlas trees coming. I would expect to see some reworking around this, or at least if we're talking in a full scale level rework or redesign of the in-game, this is one of the primary things that will need to have some changes around it. I do not feel much of the impact here on these Atlas nodes. There's a couple of them that arguably you can feel the impact, like local knowledge and, you know, the chance for the double proc of precursor tablets, etc. But I would say that the current Atlas tree feels lackluster. So I would assume in 0.5 we can see things like some quality of life related to the in-game. We can see some new Atlas trees. We can see some new objectives and more of direction of what to actually do in mapping. And the other obvious part, we only have Acts 1 through 4, and the interludes, though impressive, to be honest, and you don't really feel like you're playing like some janky placeholder, the interludes are actually quite good, in my opinion. We do need Act 5, we do need Act 6. These are supposed to, they've mentioned before, these are supposed to be like pretty cooked up and almost done. And also they're supposed to be shorter acts. So because of that, Act 5 and Act 6, I think could definitely be done in time, which really leaves 0.5 to be the end game, and the release after that, which would be slated for December, would be the release of the full campaign if the timeline would line up. If the next league is 0.5, then the league after that has to be the campaign in order to have the bare minimum of what they've mentioned they have to have done before full release. So that would be possible to have done by December, but that would leave a lot of things out. They've mentioned before that it would be sad if the game didn't release with swords. We need more melee weapons. I know we just got the talisman, for instance, but you definitely could use some more weapons. You could use some more ascendancy classes. They've said they wanted to have the ascendancies for the actual classes that are already in the game to have 3 ascendancies each. And there was some like leaked data mine information of a 3rd ranger class and potentially a 3rd huntress class that could still come to the game. There are images like this one that are showing up on PoE2DB from data mining the game files, and this is supposed to be like an arcane archer. It looks like this photo has actually been updated a bit because you can see this photo in the background of their dev interviews. However, this one now has arcane arrows with it, so it looks like it's been looked at. And honestly, I would be surprised if they full release 1.0 with the game basically in the state it's in, but with just the in-game reworked and the campaign completed. It's a pretty good game. I do think we need at least like one more class and some more ascendancies and probably some fairly large balance related changes to consider the game, you know, ready to be released. But if you talk about that, what does being released really actually mean? I mean, the game is being treated like a live service game because it is one at the moment, and full releasing it essentially just makes the game free for people to play. So if you're asking me, should it be full released? I mean, yeah, that's only a benefit to the people. Now you don't have to pay for it. There isn't really a difference from the consumer side. People treat games like they're early access, like they're full release anyway. The only difference is it doesn't really give them that early access tag that can sort of be like, well, it's being developed in early access. How many times when someone has a criticism have you seen somebody say, well, it's in early access? So, you know, there's that. But also, I think more so the part that you have to think about is, I think what they care about more than anything, I've heard people say, oh, well, they want to keep it in early access, so you have to buy it and make it money. I actually don't think they care about the money that much. You know what I think it is? I think they care about their legacy. I think what they really want is they don't want to release it in 1.0 because that's when everybody who hasn't looked at the game in a long time is going to look at the game again. And when they look at the game again, what they don't want is for everybody to start streaming the game. All the big streamers who haven't touched it since early access release start streaming the game, and then the game to be in a bad state and have a negative narrative around it. And then everyone's just like, well, you know, ship it and clip it. This one's over, boys. Like, I don't think they want that. I think Grinding Gear Games typically has a pretty good heritage of creating games, and I think they really care about their reputation. I think this is obvious because you can see it bluntly affect them in interviews, etc., with the way they talk about their game. And they've mentioned multiple times that they really want to make sure there's positivity around the game before they release it. I think they very much have made it obvious that they care about the reception of 1.0. So I think that's kind of the major focal point. So because of that, they have a very short timeline if they're going to announce it and have it be released in 2026 to get all of the things we've just gone over actually crammed together and put together on the list. But they could technically make it by December. The league after this league coming in April because 0.5 is the end game. If they release the full campaign in December and they add in like swords in a new class, technically, those are sort of the three things that they really said that they mandatory want to have in the game before its full release. So arguably 1.0 could be becoming this December. One other thing for you, there's supposed to be, I haven't touched Diablo in over a year, but there's supposed to be a massive announcement. There's a bunch of leaks and rumors going around that there's actually a Diablo 2 related update getting sort of shadow dropped or announced actually today, as a matter of fact. So as of the posting of this video, I'll be live. I'm going to watch this and see if that's actually the case. And if that's the case, we'll obviously play. I'm hoping for a Diablo 1 remaster. It's the 30th anniversary of Diablo. But if we don't get a Diablo 1 remaster, if they do drop some Diablo 2 content, that could actually be pretty interesting. If you didn't know, Path of Exile was originally created by people who loved Diablo 2 and were trying to sort of grow on the legacy of Diablo 2. And that's how Path of Exile 1 happened and how we got Path of Exile 2 today. That's about it. Love you all. I know I've been gone for a while, but I'm back, and I'll see you on the live stream today.